Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. In today's video we are going to be talking about pension offsets in regards to Social Security benefits. Before we jump into the video, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on your bell notifications so that you're always notified whenever I'm posting new content. If you enjoyed the video, you got something out of it, you learned something, please make sure to like the video because it does help the algorithm in pushing out to other people who are looking for this same information just like you. So that would be much appreciated. And if you had a question or a comment, leave a comment down below and I'll make sure to reply to it as soon as possible. And then the very last thing, I can't stress this enough, especially with this video series on offsets, please make sure to watch the video from start to finish because this is pretty critical information. And if you miss one thing, you'll be totally blindsided when you go to file for benefits. And you'll probably end up being frustrated and upset because you thought that you were going to get one thing and then another thing happens. All right. So jumping into the video, this first video is going to be a lot about terms and where there tends to be a lot of confusion in my expertise. So the first term that we're going to cover is the Windfall Elimination provision. This is probably what most people are aware of, whether it's very familiar or maybe have just heard of it in the past. If you've had any job where you paid into a retirement pension system that didn't involve Social Security taxes, I have no doubts that if you review your paperwork, you're going to see this term in some of the stuff that you were given. So the Windfall Elimination provision pertains to somebody who is filing for Social Security benefits and is eligible for a pension that is not covered by Social Security benefits. An example of this could be, I would say most commonly, you could be a police officer, a teacher, or maybe you work for the railroad system, right? So those are all examples, depending on where you live, of course, and the state that you're in, or maybe the county. But those are all examples of some people that realistically this video would pertain the most to. If you work in a state where let's say you are a teacher and you do pay Social Security taxes, this is not going to be applicable to you. Usually the term that gets used is like, if you're a teacher, is TRS, Teachers Retirement System. So a couple states that this would involve, again, would be like Illinois, Ohio, Texas. At one point, I don't know if it's still current or not, but Georgia, I want to say Connecticut, are just a few states where if you're a teacher in that state, you probably pay into a TRS instead of Social Security. So keep that in mind, okay? The second, the Windfall Elimination provision is when you are filing for benefits with Social Security under your own record. The second term that comes into play is government pension offset. This is when you're applying for benefits under somebody else's record, right? So let's say that maybe you're a widow or a widower and you have that work and you're a teacher, police officer, firefighter, or you work for the railroad, something like that, and you're filing as like a spouse or maybe a surviving spouse. So government pension offset would be the offset that would be applicable to you under that other person's record. And the distinguishment is not just in the names, but the way that the offset is calculated. So how much are you going to be offset by because of this other pension? It's two totally different formulas. All right, so keep that in mind. Jumping into the next set of terms, that there tends to be, this is where the biggest confusion lies, and why most people are surprised, I would say, when they go to file for benefits and maybe they're aware that there's an offset, but they don't think it's going to be as big as it will be because they confuse these two terms. So the first set of this is quarter of coverage, right? To be fully insured or basically eligible to file for Social Security benefits, somebody must have 40 quarters of coverage, which equals 10 years of work history, where they've paid Social Security taxes on their wages. There's a certain dollar amount that you have to hit to get the credit needed. So to earn 1/4 of coverage in 2023, you must earn $1,640. If you're a W-2 employee, you go by SSA goes by your gross wages. If you're excuse me, if you're a self-employed person or perhaps a 1099 independent contractor, Social Security goes by your net profit. And that's because when you're self-employed or a 1099 contractor, the tax burden lies on you. So as an example, let's say you made $10,000 for the year and you wrote off 8,000 of it as a deduction or a loss. Now your net profit is only $2,000, and then you'd have to pay the tax burden on that 2,000. So if let's say it was 2,000 times 0.157, you'd have to pay the IRS $314 to get the credit for that $2,000, and as a result, you would only get 1/4 out of 4 if that was the case, because you're not paying whatever the minimum would be for that second quarter, which it's like 13 something, 3280 is what you would need for 2/4 of coverage. For the whole year, it would be 6560. Again, gross wages if you're a W-2 employee, and then the tax burden if you're self-employed or a 1099 employee at that point is a little over $1,000 that you'd have to pay to the IRS. This also goes into the importance of reviewing your earnings statement. If you are a self-employed person and you're paying those taxes to the IRS, you want to make sure that the IRS is reporting those taxes properly to Social Security, so you get all the credit that you're paying for. And I have seen cases where that information does not come through, and unfortunately at that point the burden of proof lies on you as the claimant. So if you're saying that something is incorrect, you are required to show the proof to Social Security to claim that credit. Okay, so just make sure that you're doing that you're following up with your statements. I highly encourage anybody watching this to register for a My SSA account. If you have any technical issues for whatever reason, signing up for My SSA at home, I would urge you, take the time, go to the office. They can bypass all of those technical issues that you realistically would have had, and create your account. From your account, you can get, I believe, if not all 50 states, the majority of the 50 states, you can get a replacement Social Security card. You can view your earnings statement. You can apply for benefits. If you're receiving benefits, you can change your address, your telephone number, your bank information. It's really, really important to get your online account rolling, okay? Because that's just where the world is heading. Unfortunately, I hate to give such a basic answer to why they're pushing that so hard, but that's basically where it's at. All right, so again, 1640 per quarter in 2023, and that is quarter of coverage. Now, the second term that people get confused about and why they get so blindsided is there's quarters of coverage and then there's years of coverage. Years of coverage are what is needed to either reduce or remove an offset due to a pension that's not covered under Social Security taxes. For the purpose of this video, here's the chart here, but for the purpose of the video, I just want to be clear, we are going over the right side of this chart only. This stuff is, on the left side, it's talking about people that realistically are much older and probably have already filed and gone through all this already. The special minimum primary insurance amount is usually for people who have very little earnings history with Social Security benefits. I could probably dive into that into another video, but for the purpose of this one, we're just going to cover the right side of the chart, which is benefit computations applicable to certain individuals with pensions from non-covered employment. Okay, so in 2023, you can see that in order to earn a year of coverage, you have to make at least $29,700. Again, if you're a W-2 employee, if you're a self-employed person, that means that your tax burden would have to be, you're paying the IRS about $4,600 in taxes, almost $4,700, to get the year of coverage needed to avoid or start the process, or either finish the process, or maybe you're somewhere in between, to try and avoid any sort of reduction of your benefits due to this other pension that you might have. In order to essentially have no offset, you have to have 30 years of this higher number, whatever it would be for each applicable year. You'd have to have 30 years of coverage to avoid an offset. All right, and this is the chart for the offset. So if you have 30 years, and this is for the windfall elimination provision, but this chart also serves as the kind of serves as the same baseline, I guess you could say, for the government pension offset. So just ignore the numbers and kind of go by, what we're looking at here based off the years, I guess you could say. So again, if you have 30 years of coverage, you will have no offset, whether you're filing under your own record and WEP would be applicable to you, or if you're filing off of somebody else's record and the government pension offset or GPO would apply to you. So if you have 30, you're good to go. If you have between 20 and 29, you will have a partial offset on your benefits. Okay, so with each year of coverage that you gain and get closer to 30, your offset is going to be less and less. If you have less than 20, you're going to have a full offset. And as you can see, this would be, at least for the windfall elimination provision, the maximum offset that you can have on your primary insurance amount is $557.50. So let's say that your insurance amount before WEP was $1,000. After consideration of WEP, that means your insurance amount is going to be reduced to $442 if you have less than 20, then you're going to have a full offset. All right, and then as you can see, as you get closer and closer, so if you're thinking about filing this year and you have 21 years of coverage, maybe you had a part-time job somewhere else and we're hitting the right number each year, as I mentioned before, it gets less and less. So it's important to know, kind of going back to this, let's say that you weren't aware of years of coverage and you did have that part-time job while you were also working full-time as a teacher in one of those states that I mentioned before. And let's say that you earned, in 2006, let's say that you earned $16,000, right? You're looking at your earnings statement and you're like, man, I paid into Social Security. Why do I have this offset? If you didn't hit this number in 2006 and you made $16,000 instead of $17,400, then you did not get the year of coverage. You still paid Social Security taxes, you still paid into the system, and you got the tax credit that you needed for your benefits realistically to increase your insurance amount, but you're still not hitting the number to avoid the offset. So whether you're a younger person and just starting this, which this video would be fantastic for somebody like that. So if let's say you're at the end of your career and you're watching this video because you want to know how it's impacting you, share this video with somebody who maybe is just starting at the same employer that you are and say, hey, keep this in mind. You need to hit these numbers year by year. Otherwise, if you're looking at this employer for a career path and to get this pension in 20, 25, whatever it might be, 30 years from now, it's important to know what these numbers are and unfortunately grind as much as you can to hit it so that you reduce or remove any offset as much as you can. That's going to wrap it up for today's video. Again, I will be introducing a series where I cover this more. The next video is probably going to be how it's calculated. We did touch base on it just now a little bit with this kind of like this 500 number down here at the bottom, 557. But again, please subscribe to the channel and turn on your bell notifications so that you're always notified whenever I'm posting new content or the next video in this series. If you learned something from this video, you got something out of it, you enjoyed it, you want to share it with somebody else, please make sure to give it a like so that it does help YouTube spread it in the algorithm. If you had any questions or you want me to touch something on the next video touch base on something in the next video in this series, leave a comment down below. I hope you enjoyed the video and stay tuned for more. Thank you so much.